this happen in real time.
Preparing to file a spot XRP ETF anytime soon. We're going to take a look at that information. But first, Bill Morgan posted this. It looks like Ripple got another win other than the SEC and Ripple victory. It says, but alas, scams. Ripple had another win with the SEC immediately ordering an exemption from the bad actor disqualification arising from the permanent injunction. Now, I know this sounds like a...
So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of stuff we don't know about the SEC case that we might find out like years later on, because the lawsuits, they're very extensive, especially if they took 4 to 5 years. This is something I'm going to be keeping you guys updated, but I feel like there is so much that we need to uncover. Way more than you guys think. Like, institutions will probably reveal this to us in a year or so, but I'm going to be keeping you straight and real on this channel about that when it happens.
A lot of mumbo jumbo to you, but I'm going to explain it into really understand context, and we're going to get into this. I also have a ton of other Ripple and XRP information in this video, guys. We're going to have a hell of a time. Let's get into this. So here is the document, United States before the Securities and Exchange Commission. You can see that the date is August 8th. Now, instead of reading all of this, I just threw it into Perplexity and I said, like, what is this about? What happened here? And here is the background. The SEC filed a lawsuit against Ripple Labs in December 2020, alleging violations of securities laws, specifically Section 5 of the Securities Act of 1993. The court ruling was August 7, 2024. The court issued a final judgment permanently banning Ripple from violating Section 5. This judgment included an injunction, especially a court order restricting specific future activities by Ripple. The appeals and settlement, both Ripple and the SEC appealed this final judgment, but later settled. As a part of the settlement, Ripple requested the court dissolve the injunction, but the court denied it. So the injunction technically remains in effect. Why does this matter? Bad actor disqualification under the SEC rules. Here's the rule 506D. If a company like Ripple is subject to a court injunction for breaking securities laws, it's labeled as a bad actor. This could hurt Ripple's chance of getting a banking license or getting some type of spot XRP ETF approved.
So yeah, this is another legality. Basically, to sum up why this matters is because XRP has been having no partnerships with the lawsuit, no big partnerships at least, inside USA. I'm talking about the billion-dollar partnerships, guys, and that is why they're requesting also for this, which basically means that if someone wants to work with you, they will not have a bad reputation hit because of this lawsuit alone. Like this will not affect future deals or something in the past. That is the main thing that, this means. So it's a very important factor that XRP needs if it wants to have big money deals with transfers.
Anything could hold in the balance here. This label disqualifies Ripple from using Regulation D exemptions, often used to raise capital privately, such as with accredited investors, without full SEC registration that can severely restrict Ripple's business activities in the United States. Enter the SEC's immediate decision as of August 8, 2025. Despite the permanent injunction still in place, the SEC immediately granted Ripple an exemption from bad actor disqualification. This means that the SEC judged that, given the facts and the prior court's likely willingness to dissolve the injunction, had parties requested earlier, Ripple showed good cause for exemption. In short, Ripple can still access securities exemptions like Regulation D as if it weren't subject to the bad actor label.
So yeah, reputation is very important when you're dealing with banks. Again, banks are going to be looking for someone reputable. And now with that done, this is literally one step closer to getting those big partnerships that Ripple deserves.
Why is this a win for Ripple and XRP? Ripple is not being blocked from major financial activities, often hindered by the bad actor status. This removes a huge regulatory roadblock for Ripple's future fundraising and partnership opportunities here.
That's exactly what I told you guys. If they want to have big partnerships, they have to start clean slate, which basically means these 5 years of lawsuits, they have to put it behind them and go fresh, like a fresh start. And they're basically asking the court, we don't want this lawsuit to hurt our future reputation. And I know it's a very silly thing, but you're going to have a lot of fact checks when you're doing $1 billion deal, and they're going to see this lawsuit maybe 10, 15 years from now, and they're going to say, okay, we don't want to work with you because you had this lawsuit. And XRP basically filed that now that we won this lawsuit, we want to basically start fresh. We don't want anyone to say that this lawsuit potentially to get a better deal or an advantage, or even just like not get a deal with us, because we are still an amazing product. That is the main thing here, but it's definitely a big win that Ripple got. I feel like, you know, they would get it anyway if they won. It's still a thing that most people don't realize, and it's a very, very important factor as well for Ripple. It's just another one of those small wins that can slowly push it up to high prices. So yeah, remember that.
In the United States, by extension, it's seen as a positive for XRP's broader adoption and legitimacy, since Ripple is the main company building on the XRP ecosystem. So just to summarize this all for you, Ripple faced a permanent injunction from the SEC, which usually triggers a damaging disqualification, which is bad actor status for securities exemption. The SEC immediately waived this disqualification, allowing Ripple to continue normal business activities. And this is interpreted as another win for Ripple and indirectly for XRP, as it keeps the door open for future growth, partnerships, and market confidence. So that was a huge thing I don't see many people talking about. So I'm glad we got to address that and talk about it here. Let me know if you guys have any questions down below. Obviously, I'm not an attorney of any kind, but I'll do my best to see what I can do to answer those, okay? And then, of course, Stuart Outright says, following the commission's vote today, the SEC and Ripple formally filed with the Second Circuit to dismiss their appeals. The end. And now back to business. All right, so here is that information about BlackRock. So Nate Garassi owns an ETF store and actually has connections at BlackRock. He says BlackRock immediately calls.
And again, guys, I talked about why BlackRock and XRP are indirectly right now connected, but they are not working yet. But there is very big hints, again, allegedly, that BlackRock is working in some way, or not, I couldn't say working, but looking to work with XRP, or at least looking at its technology. At least if one of the employees goes there and checks out the event, it could mean something, could mean nothing. But BlackRock immediately calls me out, says no to plans at this time to launch spot XRP ETF. This will be looked back as a mistake. BlackRock, which currently lists and trades Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum, said it has no plans to list an XRP ETF or Solana ETF. But I feel like this will happen. It did get delayed. This is the big moment, the big push that could really, you know, make BlackRock, which could make it like go one step up. The issue here, however, is why it hasn't been done yet is because BlackRock wants this lawsuit to be completely over, which it already is. And for a second part, it wants to see what XRP does in the next year. Does it rally? Where does it go? I think that's a very important factor. Also, BlackRock is looking, you know, and they want to be careful in playing their cards right.
Me out. Says no plans at this time to launch a spot XRP or SOL ETF. In my opinion, this will be looked back as a mistake. We shall see. And so here is the thing that he was talking about. BlackRock, which currently lists and trades Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, said it does not have plans for an XRP ETF or a SOL ETF at this time. BlackRock does not have any plans to file an XRP or SOL ETF, a BlackRock spokesperson told the block on Friday. Now, we've all seen in the past where institutions will say one thing and then the next day they will do something else. They have, they have the right to do those types of things, but they are giving some guidance right now saying as right now, they do not have the demand at BlackRock to do this. The reason BlackRock got into Bitcoin and then Ethereum was because their customers were asking for it. That's why I ask you on this channel, if you should have a BlackRock account or you're at one of these
it could be also that they don't want to reveal, to the competitors. Like, why would they reply to the email if they're going to list BlackRock, right? Because if they're going to list XRP ETF, why would they tell, that they're going to do that? So this is like told the block, right? This is a news company. But telling this is going to be maybe bad for the competition. Like, competition could see that and they would rush to launch an XRP ETF before them. So I literally don't feel like any benefits why they would announce it until it's ready. Maybe they're still waiting for legal issues because the other XRP ETFs were delayed and BlackRock wants to file then. So maybe they have NDAs. It's a very important thing that a lot of people don't talk about, that this will not immediately get resolved. This will take time. But BlackRock ETF is the main thing that people are asking for.
SOL ETF, in my opinion, this will be looked back as a mistake. We shall see. And so here is the thing that he was talking about. BlackRock, which currently lists and trades Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, said it does not have plans for an XRP ETF or a SOL ETF at this time. BlackRock does not have any plans to file an XRP or SOL ETF, a BlackRock spokesperson told the block on Friday. Now, we've all seen in the past where institutions will say one thing and then the next day they will do something else. They have the right to do those types of things, but they are giving some guidance right now saying as right now, they do not have the demand at BlackRock to do this. The reason BlackRock got into Bitcoin and then Ethereum was because their customers were asking for it. That's why I ask you on this channel, if you
also volume is very important. I feel like they're still looking if it's really worth it, like to talk about it. So yeah, just realize that might take some time before that actually happens. Like we might need a few days or a few weeks or a few months, because they're still looking if people will buy XRP. I personally think so, because right now XRP is traded so much, same with Bitcoin and Ethereum. But in my opinion, non-professional, non-financial, from what I understand, it would be very wise for BlackRock to list XRP ETF. It would be a win-win. First off, institutions would buy. Maybe they're waiting for the crypto bill to be over.
You should have a BlackRock account, or you're at one of these institutions. Sending an email or calling your broker to telling them that you want these products can go a long way. You have the power, you have the voice. Now let's use it to better, push forward XRP in general. And so I did want to get some information of why BlackRock did Bitcoin, Ethereum spot ETFs. I'm going to actually leave a link to all of this data in the description if you want to get into this yourself. I just don't want to go through all of this, but I know some people will find this helpful. That's why I'll include it below. Now, Moon Lambo says BlackRock announced it currently has no plans to launch a spot XRP ETF. They have ceded territory in regard to this gigantic opportunity, and their competitors must be thrilled. BlackRock will...
I feel like a lot of people got frustrated, but they file for within a year. Like why would they tell someone that they're not gonna buy it, right? It just makes no sense to me why they wouldn't list it. I feel like it's gonna be before a year, but it also makes total sense from a business standpoint. Why would they tell random people, yes, we're gonna file it and it's gonna be awesome, right? They want to reveal it. They want to launch the marketing. They want to do it properly. That's why it hasn't happened yet. But again, this isn't based on facts, but it is based on my opinion and just common knowledge. Same thing, we saw them saying this about Bitcoin, Ethereum ETF when people were asking about it. There was none of that. And now we're seeing it, now we're seeing the other side happening. We're seeing it finally go up.
One day regret this and likely course correct as XRP increasingly because a dominant force in the crypto space. I think there's a little misspelling there. All right, no worries. They'll arrive, but they will be late to the party. And then Digital Asset and Digital Perspectives, Brad Keim says they're bluffing. So obviously there's people in the space that believe BlackRock is just kind of saying this for show, and they're really maybe behind the scenes planning to do this. Now they could change their mind at any moment and go down this route. I do believe eventually we will see it, but it is going to require their customers to stand up and ask for these things. And I hope my content allows you to have a voice and have power. And I know most people probably don't even think about this, but sometimes you put the idea out there, people will say, hey, I can send an email. I will call my broker. Or next time I'm talking to my broker, I will ask about these products. And
I feel like they have people paid, with thousands and thousands of dollars that they just pay to look at the data. They don't rely on emails. So that's my opinion, is like they really just look at how much they can get from the volume, and that's why they list it. People requesting it is obviously very good, and it's not bad at all, but that's not the real revenue growth that BlackRock is expecting. BlackRock is $1 trillion company, so they will take proper time to actually list that.
I believe me, that'll go a long way, and I really appreciate it if you could do that. All right. Now, John E. Deaton, the attorney for the XRP community and other crypto advocates, of course, he says what this means, Ripple can continue to raise money in their private markets. One might even argue it's business as usual, and it's just the lawsuit against Ripple and the $125 million fine never happened. Now, remember this, I should have had this post earlier here. I do apologize. I was going to actually talk about this in the middle of the video, but I thought that this was so important that I moved it to the front, and you know, ADHD gets me all the time. I forget to do stuff. All good though. All right, here we go. This is from X Finance Bull. If you want to follow X Finance Bull, there's the guy's information. He said Deloitte just confirmed it. XRP is driving Europe's payment revolution. You have SEPA, the single euro payments area, and then you have TIPS, real-time settlement. Ripple's already in the system.
Yeah, I feel like that's why they bought the 200 million company, right, guys? We talked about yesterday. Just entering this company is gonna push them to get more networking right now. So if you buy a $200 million company, you don't just buy the technology, you also buy the whole system. You buy all the marketing, all the connections that they could have to make better deals.
Option is not a theory. Understand all of this at financebull.com. Yeah, drop your website. All good though here. Stay ahead before the crowd wakes up. Just so you know, I don't know what this is. So, you know, please click or do anything at your own peril, at your own risk, all right? I'm not saying to do this. I don't have no idea what this is. I was just reading through the thing. All right.
Okay, key driver in SEPA instant changes in the Deloitte report. So yeah, they're already saying Ripple is going to be the main thing. Again, Deloitte, which is one of the big companies, right, saying this just further shows that crypto is not only bought by retail, and you know, it's really going worldwide. Anyone in finance has probably heard about XRP now, which is really good news for XRP because this is, you know, the next big thing that people are waiting for. The report places Ripple alongside Bitcoin as a transformative technology driving this digitalization. So again, you know, crypto used to be something for fun. I really feel like utility is going to be the driver of the future bull markets. I could be totally wrong, but it did not do that before because of the lawsuit. That's my opinion. And now with the new pumps that we're seeing, I feel like it's really utility. So why are other coins like, for example, you know, HBAR or HBAR actually rose? So this confirms my theory. There's some coins that did not rise, that are based in the US that have not arisen yet, but literally every single utility coin in the last month has pumped. So I was right on that when I was calling it a month ago. We saw all these coins, which are literally utility tokens, basically double in price. So yeah, just let that sink in. Also, XRP went up 30%. As I was saying to you guys, that utility tokens, in my opinion, are going to be the main factor because the US government is going to try to go something with utility in crypto, not just speculative assessments, just like 2024 and 2021 meme coins were.
For real-time payments across Europe, the 24/7 availability, the market accepts payments to the available around the clock, which pushes the adoption of mobile wallets and instant transfer solutions. Ripple's technological change. Deloitte's mentioned the report places Ripple alongside of Bitcoin as a transformative technology, driving digitization in European markets, a sign of mainstream recognition. Near real-time settlement, Ripple's XRP ledger and payment solutions are considered efficient alternatives to traditional payment rails like Swift.
So yeah, you don't really have any other alternative than, you know, Swift. It's either Swift or Ripple. It's neither in between. So which one are you going to choose if one is cheaper and faster? Just think about it. Of course, XRP, right?
Allowing near instant fund movement between banks and institutions. Of course, we know about the lower cost. Ripple's tech can significantly cut cross-border payment and wire transfer costs, especially for corporates and financial institutions.
Yeah, corporates are having a lot of transfers, which means probably thousands or millions or tens of thousands of dollars saved for them.
Regulatory backing, the TIP system, European Central Bank, ECB, and the ECB TIPS, which is the target instant payment system, is referenced as a pan-European network supporting instant euro settlements between banks in real time. I've shown a lot of connections.
So yeah, next 2 to 3 years are definitely going to be amazing for XRP. 7.5 million payments per day. that is about like what 0.1% a day, and you're going to be using XRP to burn that. That is going to be tens of thousands of XRP dollars or XRP burned per day. So tens of thousands burned.
Payments per day of around $1 million on average. If you decided to use something like XRP for those payments, not only would you save billions of dollars per year, but you would also get rid of some of this nostro vostro kind of stale money in bank accounts all over the world, as well as you could actually put that money to good use inside of the bank. And
XRP, I feel like, is going to profit from it from the partnerships. That's the first thing. And second thing, XRP is going to do those token burns that it has been, teasing about.
Inside of the town, neighborhood, or whatever country that bank is in. So for instance, if a bank has money tied up all over the world for, all these Nostro Voter accounts, if they could get that money back, think about the home loans, personal loans, business loans, student loans.
Also, banks are not used for payment contracts yet with something that XRP enables. So for example, we see right now in the future potential is you could literally buy a farm just by sending it through the bank. So potentially there are going to be on the ledger, in theory, you could buy the land and basically get ownership of it. That is the future of tokenization. It is pretty crazy when you think about it. It is in very early stages, but XRP wants to be the first to do that.
All these types,
just like browsing Amazon, you can just click and buy a house.
Of services that they could, start to gin up and offer. This could help GDP growth in whatever country that was able to grow that in. And of course, people would be a lot happier and they would have more access to money. One of the biggest problems around the world is businesses don't have enough access to capital, and this could definitely help solve those issues. Also, card and cash alternatives with the EU's push for full digital payments. Blockchain-based platforms such as Ripple are seen increasingly viable for both retail and wholesale financial flows. So this does solve, not just institutional problems, but this solves retail problems as well. Why this matters: Ripple and XRP's credibility being identified in Deloitte report alongside of the ECB systems further boosts Ripple's institutional credibility and adoption potential for XRP in Europe. The impact on adoption, regulatory support. We talked about the D2 and tips, and of course the growth in the ecosystem. Now, there's a little bit more information I wanted to just show you really quickly. Ripple did just tweet this report out today, August 8th. This will come out tomorrow on the 9th on Saturday. Tokenization isn't a trend. It's reshaping global finance. Here's how real-world assets.
That's what I told you guys. Tokenization is another part they are putting their money into. XRP is about 900 employees. It's a whole company. It's a whole movement. And they are putting their money into basically buying and using all these stocks digitalized. Everything is on the internet now. They're trying to push to have real estate. They're trying to push to have stocks, whatever you want on the internet, and buy it on the internet as well. And it all wants to be through XRP ledger, which would be lots of money coming through.
Are moving on chain with secure institutional grade custody across regions. It's talking about treasuries and money market funds in the EU and the USA. It talks about agricultural receivables, expanding rural access in Latin America, trade finance and structured lending in Southeast Asia. And it does talk about real estate tokenization with Control Alt and Land Department on the XRP ledger. Now, here is their entire breakdown and report. I'm going to include this in the description so you don't have to go and float around the internet to find it. I will also include some of the research here from Perplexity of why this is important. Of course,
so yeah, it's very important to also know that, this is in very early stages for XRP as well, which is good. It is good that it's in early stages because it means they could be the first ones. They could be basically the next Amazon or Walmart in terms of development to actually push through here, right? So being the first is definitely something that they have been planning for a while. And BlackRock is one that's also doing this. So if BlackRock is doing this, again, $1 trillion company, they definitely know something.
Talk about the instant settlement, secure storage and management, 1 million wallets deep, FX market coverage, right? We talked about that just a few minutes ago with the FX coverage of 90%. Talking about all these different currencies, real estate, tokenization pilots, major projects with Colombia, land ownership, Hong Kong, property, back-end lending. Remember, this is HELOCs, get an instant HELOC. And Dubai title deeds leverages Ripple custody to facilitate secure, scalable, and programmable asset markets on the blockchain. The reason why this is really important, these are kind of like proving grounds, testing grounds for the rest of the world. If Ripple can prove in Colombia, in Dubai, and in Hong Kong that all of this technology works, then they can mass scale it and mass produce it for the world. Now, look at what's interesting here is you don't see Ripple kind of repeating what they're doing, right? They're doing real estate tokenization pilots with Colombia, right? Land ownership. In Hong Kong, they're doing lending, right? Back-end lending. And then in Dubai, it's title deeds. So they're attacking the whole real estate market here with these 3 different examples.
And this is just the beginning. There could be like not only property, but this could be around the world, right? These are just the start. So buying like titles on XRP Ledger, again, if you send a transfer, it is going to make a lot of money in terms of burning XRP. We have been talking way a lot about this on this channel. So I definitely have more videos on that. But Ripple custody to facilitate secure, scalable, and programmable asset markets on the chain. Again, that is what it would help a lot of people. There's so many papers that nobody uses anymore, or so many transfers. Everything is going to be on the internet in the future. It's going to be much faster. It's going to handle those 15,000 transactions per second that Ripple is doing right now. And it's going to offer a lot of money
that can be tokenized and traded on blockchains. Also, stablecoin access and on and off ramps enables easy fiat integration. And
yeah, so look at this. XRP price is about to go crazy. It's about to completely blow up. This is from Steph's Crypto, which I wanted to show you guys. It is a lot